everyone, in today's video we're going to be adding this climbing to our movement system, and with that we'll be working with some slightly more advanced montages and some additive layer tracks which allow us to add our own custom movement to our blueprints as an alternative to root motion. And with that we'll get started. Okay, so to start, first off, these two animations are going to be in the Google Drive for you to download, which we'll be using to make our climber system today. And the first thing that we need to do is we need our player to know when there's something in front of him that he can climb. So to do that, we're going to make use of a line trace. Line trace by channel, and we're going to plug it into the sequencer because we need to know at all times. And to get the location for this, we want it to start from the mesh, but about at chest height. So drag our mesh in, and we want to get its world location. But if we get the world location, it will be at floor level, so we also just want to split it and then recombine the vector, because we need the X and the Y, but we want to change its height, so we'll just add a little bit extra to the height. And that gives us our start. And then to get our end, we need to do something a little bit more complex, but if you've used blueprints before, I imagine that you do it all the time. We need to find the location that's directly in front of the start location. And to do that, usually you'd get the forward vector, but as I understand it, the UE5 character is rotated in a way that we need the get right vector. But usually you would use the forward vector. And then we just want to multiply that to get our distance, and if we right click here we can convert the pin to a float. You used to, in UE4 I believe, you just used to be able to do times, or yeah, you'd be able to just do that and put vector times and it'd be vector times float integer, but now I think we just do a multiply and we change the pin. And so we'll put that to 250. And then we will add these two together to get our end result. And now we want to draw it, or else we won't be able to see it. For duration, and we're to, because it's being done on tick, we're just going to get to 0. And now if we play, you see, yeah, we have our trace here, and with that little red square we can see it's hitting whenever we're near a wall. So now the player knows when they're at a wall, and the next thing we need to do is to just find out how high up our grabbing point is and where our grabbing point is. So then we can use that to decide if the ledge is too high, or where our character needs to be sent to, if it is true. So what I'm going to do here is I want to pull out from here and make a branch. And basically if we get a hit, this will run true. So what's happening here. And with that and if it's true, we want to run another line trace that's up in the air and hits down and tries to find where the ledge is. And for that, we need to split this struck pin and find the impact point. But we need to do a few things to the impact point to get the proper location. Because we break the vector and we do what we did before here, and we just want to recombine the vector to just send it a little bit higher. And I think if we add 200, should be a good amount. And then, so for our start, and we want to do it again for our end, and put minus 100. You could also just subtract 100 if you wanted a positive value. But now this, I'll just quickly show you, doesn't work exactly as we want it to. So as we look here, it does hit, but sometimes it doesn't. And that's just because it's exactly on the point of the wall. So we wanna push this top line trace a bit forward, just a little bit. And to do that, we want to get the actor's forward vector, or well, the right vector in this case. I want to add that to our start and end. Now we don't want it to add by a lot. We just want it to go into the ledge a little bit. Do that for the start and do that for the end. And now this should be both of our traces working. Yeah, and as you can see, it's always hitting right where it needs to be. There'll never be a weird thing where you're at an odd angle and it won't hit true because of it. So now, we always, with this, when this is hitting, we can tell the player, okay, you can climb. And with that, we'll go on to the next part where we actually start looking into attaching the player to the point when he jumps. And from there, and then we can add our animation. Right, okay, so now that we have our trace working, we can make two variables to get our animations working. First off, when this runs true, we can tell our player that we can climb. So here we'll make a bool called can climb. We'll also plug that into a branch. So if it's true, set it to true, and if it doesn't work, set it to false. And then we also want to do that for this branch as well, just to make sure there's no bugs. And then the second variable that we're going to get from this hit result, if we split the struck pin, is the out hit location. So we put this variable, and this we'll call our climbing point because it tells us, oh well, we're going to use it to tell the player where they need to be to climb. because what we're going to do is that when we're close enough to this location that we're going to make from this variable, we are going to change the actor's location to this new location, but only when we're close enough that it doesn't make a significant cut, so it looks right. So we're going to change this to climbing point. Oh, I already have a climbing point, but delete that. Brilliant. And from there, we want to get a reference to the self, which is just the whole character blueprint. And right, brilliant. And then what we're going to do is we are going to compare these two variables. Get its absolute value. And then it seems like there isn't an in range for the vector, so it's a bit messy, but we're going to have to split it. First, we'll set the value, just so we don't have to do it 3 times. So yeah, I found that 50 is a good number. And from there, we use this to plug it into a branch so that when this runs true, we can climb. And to make sure we check all these booleans at the same time, we can use an AND node. Plug all these in. Brilliant. And then what we need to do next is set the actor's location. But to do that, we only want to do it once, and this is plugged into tick. So for that, we just use a do once node. And to make sure we can do the climb multiple times, so whenever the don't climb gets turned off, we're going to reset do once. Just move this somewhere a bit cleaner. Right, and then from there, we need our character's movement component. And from there, we can set the movement mode. And we'll set is flying, and just so that this way gravity won't make us fall to the ground when we set our location. And we also want to stop the movement. Brilliant. And now this should stop any errors, and from here we want to set our new location. So we're going to get set our actor location, and from this we are going to use our climbing point. But we don't want to transport it exactly to the climbing point, because that would just send us to where the animation is eventually going to take us. So if we split the struct pin, we want it to be lower, a bit lower than the climbing point and a bit backwards. So first we're going to get a location that's lower than the climbing point on the z-axis. So we'll take 65. But then we'll also get our get right vector to get a location that's behind us, but in the direction of the player. And that we want to minus 65. And then we just want to add these two together. To get our new location. And then, just as showing you a way of testing this, because obviously I already have the perfect variables, what we can do is make a sphere trace and use this little equation here as the location, set it to around 10, and this way when we come over here and these two are true, we have our climbing point needs to be drawn. That looks good. When we press 1, we should see it gives us a little sphere to show us where it will transport us. And which has made me realise that I've not put a value in here. Which is why it's always good to do things like this. Test. But now if we do it again, we press 1, and this would be the perfect location to send us with our animation. And then you can just do stuff like that, so that then you can, while you're making mechanics like this, you can use this instead of having to fiddle about with it. Right, but now it should, when we jump, send us here. And this is now where we will make our animation unfold. Right, okay, and now we can get to work on getting our animations into our animation graph to get the climb actually happening. So first off, with these two animations I've sent you, I'm just going to duplicate the climb because I did something in there that I think it would be a good thing to show. So here you can see we've got this route track, and what this does is it basically moves the route of the character while the animation's happening. And this was just because, first off, the animation, the route motion that we have wasn't actually moving the character forward onto the ledge. And when we moved the character up, it was moving the character way too far up. Like you can see here. So here on this Y track, this moves the character forward. So as we grab, from this point we're moving the character forward. And then the Z, this is just counteracting what the route motion is currently doing. And we make this by, just remove this. What we do is we go to our skeleton tree, go to our route, and if we move it and add a key, because we've changed something inside the root bone, it will create a root track. And then, because we did that movement just to get access to this root track, we can delete the keyframes. And then just give it a second. And then we now have full access. So I'll just quickly do a mock-up of what I did with this track, just to show you just what we can do with curves. So we're going to track there, wait until he gets up onto the ledge, which is here, which means we should stop it moving forward. Click again, right click, add a key. And then, we can move the character forward. And then, as you can see, mine was curved. So if we select both of our keys, right click and press auto, it now gives us these little widgets where, there now. So I did it like this so that we moved up linearly first, but then kind of slowed down as we got onto the platform. Right, but so now that we've covered that, we can actually get moving forward. So we don't want this anymore, so I'll delete this. And now I'm going to replicate what I've done in here. So we want to create an animation montage. And a really cool thing that we can do is inside an animation montage, we can blend animations together. So we can have them working in one animation, so we don't have to make multiple calls to the different animations we want. And then we want to blend out at 0.75. And the last thing that we want to do inside of this montage is, in this notify track, as we hit the ground, we want to make a notify. And we're making this notify because right now the movement mode is flying, so gravity is not working. So at this point we want to make a montage notify so that at this point we can set gravity working again. And so that now that that's set up, we can close that and we can go to our animation montage in the event graph. And so now we want to make a custom event for the climb. And just like we always do when we do an animation montage, we need to disable the IK. And so when we blend out or when we complete, we want to disable the IK. If you just do it on complete, like in this animation, because we are blending out, we never actually get to this point. So, or at least by the time we get to this point, it'll be too late. And then on our notify begin, first we need to get our character and get the movement component. That might be the wrong node. Yeah, it will be. It's character movement, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to set the movement mode again. And if you see we have this unnotified begin, that calls when that montage notify gets played. And now we want it back to walking, set it back to normal. Right. And so now all that's left to do is go into our graph, and in the animation graph node, we should have our climb event. Brilliant. Now if we maximize this, and we did something wrong there, which is whenever we're playing a montage, it needs skeletal component, and it also needs the animation. Didn't realise I didn't put that in. Right, brilliant. So now if we try that again, there you go. We have our climbing animation. Although the IK went off at not the best point there. So it might be the case that our blend out wasn't at the best time. So if we go back to our climb montage, maybe we set this back to 0.25, we can play. Yeah, there we go. Although I moved when that happened. Okay, so looking at that bug, I figured that what was happening was that because we were trying to turn the IK back on while the animation was happening, it caused some kind of issues that turning the IK on like that caused an issue. So on the completed, we've just put a slight delay and plugged it in. So, and then we can see that now, when we're playing, it'll happen a little bit slightly smoother. I think another thing to consider if you want to fine tune that is just look at that additive track when we're moving the character up and maybe move them up a little bit more. But apart from that, that is our climbing working. So, and with that for now, we're going to leave the character movement tutorials for a little bit. I think if I may decide later that I want to add a full climbing system, you know, where we can like shimmy on ledges and things like that. But for now, we're going to get onto the next phase with interacting with the environment, opening doors, picking up items, dealing with box triggers. I think it's a lot of simple stuff, but we really look into blueprint hierarchy in it. So for now, we're going to say goodbye to this episode and we're going to move on to a new series. Alright, and with that, I'll see you all later.